travelers to your referral roadmap. This podcast is dedicated to helping you unleash your personal and business revenue potential by cultivating referral relationships. In this 10-part series, we're diving into the dynamic realm of prospecting. We'll be exploring how prospecting in business can be a key driver of success, offering insights and strategies to master this essential skill to build your own referral-based businesses. Today, we are talking about the Gatekeeper Jedi, techniques to bypass obstacles and reach decision makers. And for you travelers who haven't been on the road this far with us, wanted to go ahead and redefine prospecting. So, prospecting are the behaviors or activities and actions that you execute, creating referrals and or leads, resulting in revenue for you and your company. Also known as making it rain, as Athena likes to say. And one little key tip is don't try to get past gatekeepers, align with them. So with that, Athena, I bet you have a story or two for us.
I do. I have a really fun story that I wanted to share with you guys. Because so years ago, I want to say about 8 years ago, I had a young lady come to me and she said she had worked in the medical field for years and had decided to get into real estate. And she was failing, right? She was struggling. And she asked me if we could go out to lunch and if she could just mastermind with me and strategize. And she became very honest about her struggle. And so part of it, and you guys, if you haven't listened to the target market, please do that. It's a critical series. So first of all, I asked her about her target market and we went through who her target market was. And that was a newer concept with her, which is why I want you guys to understand the concept. And I asked her just a series of questions, Jada, and she was, distraught. She was frustrated. She wanted to give up. She was crying at lunch. And what we learned is she used to work at a hospital. And at this hospital, she knew lots of people. And she flippantly said, I'd love to be the real estate agent to the doctors moving here. And I said, hey, let's talk through that. And as we did that, she said, well, it's not the doctors you have to talk to. It's their assistants, the, secretaries, the people at the front desk. Those people are tasked to helping the doctor find homes when they move to the area. And I said, hello, that's your target market. It's not the doctors. It's the people who have to help you. Like they have to help the doctors. These are the people you need to go help. And so she was like, huh? And I'm like, they're the gatekeepers to the doctor. And so she was like, how do I do it? Anyway, Jada, what she did is she went and had a friend that knew one. So this is what I always tell people. Instead of cold calling, which sometimes is necessary, if you can get an introduction, that's the way to go. So she found somebody who knew one of the gatekeepers. And that gatekeeper was willing to allow her to talk to her. And I told her, I said, don't you go in and say like, I'm so amazing and this is why you should work, right? We call that no gastoning, right? No peacocking. It's not about you. I said, sit down with her and ask her respectfully, do you already have an agent you work with? Is that agent doing everything that you need? And this first person said, yeah, I think there are cards around here, but I haven't seen this person in a long time. That should be a note for you guys right there. Just because you have business doesn't mean you can not lose it. I mean, think about that. So this young lady said, well, would you be willing to do this with me? How could I make this easy for you? As the gatekeeper, how can I make you look like the hero? How can I make you look like a superstar to this doctor? And she did that. And she built out the system. And so she started getting referrals from this one doctor. Then she was smart. And she said, this one gatekeeper. And then she asked this gatekeeper, would you feel comfortable now that I've proven myself to introduce me to the other gatekeepers? And that's exactly what she did. And here's the thing. She became extremely successful. Now she has a team of 6. So I want you to think through the gatekeepers. That's why what Jada said, align with them. So it's about understanding your target market, but it's also about aligning. It's not whack-a-mole. It's about aligning. So something to think about. Something to think about. But love that story. By the way, it's one of my favorite success stories because it proves with the right focus and the right tools how amazing that everyone can be. But Jada, do we have any facts and figures on this one?
We do a little bit. So I will link the excerpt that I'm going to read from, it's a HubSpot article. There wasn't a ton of facts and figures on this one, more so just reading and education. And so I will read the one statistic that really stood out to me, and then also wanted to read a little excerpt. But then if anyone wants to read further, I will make sure that it is linked in the show notes. So when it comes to new salespeople, only 1% make it past the gatekeeper to the decision maker. That is very tiny.
Tiny.
Very tiny. So the excerpt that I wanted to read, it says, a gatekeeper in sales is a person who gets in the way of a salesperson and a decision maker within a company. Gatekeepers are usually the first point of contact at the company's office, or they may field calls for executives. They help business owners and other decision makers save time by assessing the salesperson's pitch and determining if the product or service is a good fit for the company. Some common types of gatekeepers include receptionists, secretaries, and administrative assistants. So that is really all I wanted to pull from that. But again, if you want to read more, I will make sure that is linked. But Athena, where does the rubber hit the road on this topic?
Right? I mean, how do we get them to align with us?
Exactly.
Really, I mean, how do we take that 1% into a conversion?
Yeah.
So the very first thing I'm going to tell you is the number one best way is to get an introduction. Hands down, if you know somebody, I just was on a call today, Jada, with a coaching client, and she's launching a magazine. And so she's looking for advertisers. And as we were discussing this, she was doing some cold calls to C-suites and getting the gatekeeper, right? And so interesting, we were talking through that strategy, but I even told her the number one strategy is get the introduction. But let's say you're listening this right now and you're like, I don't have the introduction. What do we do? So here's, these are going to be lengthy. Jada, I think that, can we put the bold in the show notes for everyone?
Yeah,
the bold
absolutely.
points? Okay,
Absolutely.
so we're going to, if you're on your treadmill or you're driving, I'm going to have some bold points here, 7 points. Jada will make sure those in their show notes for you so that you can remember to jog your memory on these. So the number one strategy is understand their roles and goals. So when we talk about understanding them, the them is the gatekeeper. Take time to understand the gatekeeper and the influencer's role within the organization. Okay. So don't just assume, understand them. It may take more than one visit. Are they solely responsible? Are they not? And gain insight into their goals and priorities. Okay. Gain insight into their goals and priorities. Now, some of this, you guys, you can do as a research prior to, right? If you can do this before you even come in, that's even better. So we need to understand them because we need to make it about them. Even the gatekeeper, we're getting them to align. You also need to respect their time and value them. Okay. So just showing up, I can tell you this right now. Jada is my right hand. If she was in a traditional office, we work remotely. If she was in a traditional office, if you walked in and disrupted her without scheduling a time to talk to her, it wouldn't go well for you. I'm just going to tell you. So she respects her time and she is extremely thorough in what she does. Think about most gatekeepers, secretary, receptionists, they're extremely scheduled. They sometimes are the glue that holds the company together. So think about that when you're trying to get to them. We oftentimes will call Jada and we just want to talk to the boss. I would schedule a time with the gatekeeper, right? Schedule a time and understand and value them because they're the ones that are going to be either for you or against you. So I would just say, I know in our organization, if you want to get to me, you better talk to Jada first and you better schedule it because she's not going to do it on the fly. I'm just telling you. She won't even take my calls on the fly sometimes. So I'm just telling you. That's just true. Strategy 3, show genuine interest and empathy. Okay. I know you're selling, but be authentic, be interested in helping them. Be interested in that your product or service is going to help the gatekeeper and help the company. If that isn't up front, they're gonna see it, smell it, and you're gonna get kicked out. Right? So that goes in all, and make sure that you're listening. Don't go in so ready to get your pitch in to the gatekeeper that you're not listening to the gatekeeper. Right? The gatekeeper may tell you information that is vital to you get a conversion once you get in front of the decision maker. Right? I'm just gonna, and I'm gonna keep using Jada as an example. Jada knows the inner working of everything that's going on in the company. She can tell you right up front if what you're saying is going to be helpful or not, or she can help you tweak it and say, you know what, that I wouldn't present it like this, but I would like that. So just to let you know, they usually are the person that is going to be able to help you. So have great listening and have empathy and interest in them. And 4, build trust. So how do you do that? It means you might have to come in a couple of times, right? It may mean that you schedule a time. It may mean that you bring donuts. It may bring that you bring green smoothies. It may be that you share a testimony about the gatekeeper. Right? What if you went on Google and talked about how amazing and professional that gatekeeper was? Right? And then let them know. There are ways that you can demonstrate and build trust with them. Tell the gatekeeper about the success that you've had helping other people fight the same pain and hurt that their business is fighting. All right. So there's work to be done. And then find some common ground, right? We call them hooks, but it's experiences. And what I like to do is once you understand their pain or their goals, their desires, the things that you can help them with, give them the third party stories. Tell them about how you have helped other people like them or that you empathize with them, and be able to bring them in so that they understand that they are being seen, heard, and understood. And let's be honest, make them the hero, right? Make them the hero because they're going to answer for letting you through. So think about that. Or what do you've got planned to make them a hero? And number 6, follow up. Okay. So continuing to follow up. My poor dear client today, she said, Athena, I left one message. How many times do I have to follow up? And I said, if it's a cold lead, a minimum of 8. And she literally went like this. No. And she said, I was hoping you'd say it twice. And I'm like, no. 48% of salespeople give up on the second try. No, 8 times. And so she was like, oh my, I get it. We get it. But you've got to keep going. You've got to build that. Persistence is key. We just interviewed a friend of ours, Wyatt, on our podcast, and he was talking about when he first emerged into a market selling luxury homes. He went after a client, and that client's wife was the gatekeeper and kept shutting the door and saying, no, no, no. And he continued to be persistent. And it was a game changer for him. So follow up and maintain the rapport. And lastly, provide value in everything you do. So I know you're like, how do I do that? What does that look like? Well, Jada and I are going to have a series where we really talk about adding value in a lot of depth. But for today, I just want you to think about this. If you're going in and you're talking to the gatekeeper, listen for things that maybe the gatekeeper would be interested in. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's a podcast. Maybe it's a connection. You don't know until you are actively listening. And make sure that you try to foster a relationship with them by giving them something before you get something. And what that means is you just got to be on alert looking for it. So we'll make sure that you have those 7. I hope that helped you guys. but really it's about aligning, getting them on your team, making them an advocate with you, and then everybody winning. Where do we go from here though, Jada?
Great question. Well, we would love to invite you to join the Success Revolution. It's our weekly podcast or our weekly blog. You're on our podcast already. It is our weekly blog fueled by relationships, referral, and revenue to get those weekly growth strategies to take control of your sales, your revenue, and achieve your full potential straight to your inbox. I'll make sure to link that in the show notes below. That way you can subscribe. And then don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so you can join us next week as Athena brings real talk and real strategies on digital prospecting, thriving in the new era of sales engagement with our special guest, Ashley Quintana. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll see you next week.
It'll be a good one. Bye, everyone.